Hey, what's up guys, Steve here, and welcome back to another monthly recap video as we take a look at the 15 highest selling baseball cards from July of 2022. And kicking today's list off at number 15 is this 1948 Bowman Stan Musial, card number 36. This PSA 9 received 18 bids at the Heritage auction on July 23rd and sold for $63,000. This is the new record sale for a PSA 9, beating out the previous record by $1,800. The all-time record sale of this card is still held by a PSA 10 that sold for $360,000 at a Memory Lane auction back in May of 2017. PSA has graded this card 1,989 times, and a PSA 9 is a pop of 15, with only one copy graded higher in a PSA 10. Up next at number 14 is this 2018 Bowman Chrome Rookie Autograph Shohei Ohtani. This PSA 10 received 29 bids at the PWCC Premier Auction on July 21st and also sold for $63,000. This sale falls only $9,000 short of the all-time record sale in any grade by any grading company. The last BGS Gold Label 10 of this card sold for $24,000 back in November of 2020. This is the Gold Refractor, serial numbered out of 50, and PSA has graded this card 9 times, including a pop of 8 in a PSA 10. We're back to vintage at number 13 with this 1963 Topps Mickey Mantle, card number 200. This PSA 9 received 9 bids at the Heritage auction on July 23rd and sold for $81,000. This sale falls only $9,000 short of the all-time record sale of this card. This card has been graded 6,281 times by PSA, and a PSA 9 is a pop of 40, with only 2 copies graded higher in a PSA 10. I was unable to find any previous sales for a PSA 10. Up next at number 12 is this 1955 Topps Roberto Clemente, card number 164. This PSA 8 received 34 bids at the PWCC Premier Auction on July 21st and sold for $84,000. The last PSA 8 of this card sold for $90,000 back in April, and this sale falls only $18,000 short of the record sale for a PSA 8. The all-time record sale of this card is still held by a PSA 9 that sold for just over $1.1 million at a Goldin auction back in March of 2021. While doing research for this card, I found a PSA 10 that sold for $432,690 at an SCP auction back in May of 2012. PSA has graded this card 6,154 times, and a PSA 8 is a pop of 123, with 19 copies graded higher, including that previously mentioned pop of 1 PSA 10 for the highest graded copy. Coming in at number 11 is this 1933 Goudey Babe Ruth, card number 53. This PSA 5 received 43 bids at the PWCC Premier Auction on July 21st and also sold for $84,000. This is the new record sale of this card in a PSA 5, beating out the previous record by $25,000. The all-time record sale of this card is still held by a PSA 9 that sold for just over $4.2 million at a Memory Lane auction back in July of 2021. PSA has graded this card 1,048 times, and a PSA 5 is a pop of 81, with 85 graded higher, including a pop of 1 in a PSA 9 for the highest graded copy. Kicking off the top 10 of today's list is this 1925 Exhibits Lou Gehrig. This PSA 3 with an MK qualifier received 18 bids at the Heritage auction on July 23rd and sold for $87,000. I was surprised to find there has been 6 previous sales of this card in a PSA 3 with an MK qualifier, with the record sale coming back in April of 2021 and selling for $195,406. The all-time record sale of this card without a qualifier comes in a PSA 5 that sold for $1,032,000 at a Memory Lane auction back in July of 2021. Up next at number 9 is his 2018 Topps Chrome Update Ronald Acuna Jr. This BGS 9.5 received 23 bids at the PWCC Premier Auction on July 21st and sold for $90,000. This is Acuna's autographed Super Refractor 1 of 1 and the first ever sale of this card I could find. Coming in at number 8 is this 2016 Bowman Prospects autographed Juan Soto. This BGS 9.5 received 31 bids at the PWCC Premier Auction on July 21st and sold for $99,000. This is the Orange Refractor serial numbered out of 25. This sale is up in comparison to the last 2 BGS 9.5 sales that sold back in June, while the all-time record sale of this card is still held by a BGS 9.5 that sold for $145,200 back in February of 2022. It's hard to say how accurate the pop reports are for this card. While this card is serial numbered out of 25, the pop reports are showing it's been graded 34 times by Beckett, and a BGS 9.5 is a pop of 15, with none graded higher. Coming in at number 7 is this 1933 Goudey Nap Lajoie, card number 106. This SGC 8 received 23 bids at the Heritage Auction on July 23rd and sold for $114,000. This is the new record sale of this card in an SGC 8, beating out the previous record by $6,000. The record sale of this card in an SGC slab comes in an SGC 9 that sold for just short of $126,000 all the way back in January of 2009. The all-time record sale of this card is still held by a PSA 9 that sold for $384,000 at a Heritage auction back in January of 2022. SGC has graded this card 44 times, and an 8 is a pop of only 3. Up next at number 6 is this 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle, card number 311. This SGC 5 received 39 bids at the PWCC Premier Auction on July 21st and sold for $156,000. This sale is down as the last 2 SGC 5s of this card sold for $180,000 and $204,000, both of which happened in 2022. Graded 587 times by SGC, this Mickey Mantle is a pop of 45 in an SGC 5. Kicking off the top 5 of today's list is this 1968 Topps 3D Roberto Clemente. This PSA 10 received 7 bids at the Heritage Auction on July 23rd and sold for $162,000. This is by far the new record sale of this card in any grade by any grading company. Matter of fact, this PSA 10 more than doubles the previous record sale of $66,000. Graded only 64 times by PSA, this card is a pop of 6 in a PSA 10. Up next at number 4 is this 2009 Bowman Chrome Draft Picks and Prospects Mike Trout. This BGS 9.5 received 20 bids at the PWCC Premier Auction on July 21st and sold for $180,000. This is the autographed Orange Refractor that was serial numbered out of 25. This is the lowest sale of a BGS 9.5 since November of 2020. The last PSA 10 of this orange refractor sold for just over $344K back in July of 2020, and the all-time record sale is still held by a BGS Gold Label 10 that sold for $369K at a Goldin auction back in September of 2020. Up next at number 3 is this 1952 Topps Willie Mays, card number 261. This PSA 8 received 43 bids at the PWCC Premier Auction on July 21st and sold for $240,000. This sale is up as the last PSA 8 sold for $180K back in May and falls only $18K short of the record sale for a PSA 8. The all-time record sale of this card is still held by a PSA 9 that sold for $478,000 at a Heritage auction back in May of 2016. Graded 2,585 times by PSA, this card is a pop of 59 in a PSA 8, with 15 copies graded higher, including a pop of 1 in a PSA 10. Coming in at number 2 is this 1961 Topps Dice Game Mickey Mantle, card number 8. This PSA 1 received 8 bids at the Heritage auction on July 23rd and sold for $396,000. To show how rare this card is, it has only been graded twice by PSA, including a pop of 2 in a PSA 1. This is the new record sell, as this exact PSA 1 sold for $372K back in February of 2021. And topping off today's list for the 15 highest selling baseball cards from July of 2022 is this 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle, card number 253. This PSA 8 received 12 bids at the Heritage auction on July 23rd and sold for $444,000. This sale is up compared to the previous PSA 8 that sold for $342K 1 month prior in June, but is still far off from the record PSA 8 sale that took place in March of 2021 and sold for $615,000. The all-time record sale of this card is still held by a PSA 9 that sold for $750K back in April of 2018. Graded 2,370 times by PSA, this card is a pop of 53 in a PSA 8, with 10 copies graded higher, including a pop of 1 in a PSA 10. Thanks for joining me today, guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.